Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to our very first episode of Great People TV for 2023. I'm Ben Ibrahim, and I hope, God willing, this will be a fantastic year for all of us. And today, we're going to be talking to Benyamin Ismail, the CEO of AirAsia X, to talk about his leadership style and AirAsia. So, welcome, Mr. Benyamin Ismail, aka Big Ben, because I am the shorter Ben. Ben, how are you, man?
Hey, I'm good, shorter Ben. Yeah.
Ouch, that hurts. All right, all in good conversation. Man, tell us how it's been for you towards the end of 2022, since it's the start of 2023.
Well, I think last year was been not just last year, but even the year before and years before that, it's been very tough for us. I think no one expected COVID to come. And when it happened, I thought it was going to be just a 2, 3 month bug thing. But unfortunately, it became 2 years, right? So, very tough. I think we had to make some painful decisions. I think the main one really is to kind of like close down the airline temporarily, put it to sleep for about 2 years, and only just focus on ad hoc flights in terms of cargo or you know rescuing people trapped in other countries and that kind of stuff. So it was hard, and of course the other thing as well is trying to figure out how not to burn cash, and I think the painful decision was one is cost cutting through just business operations, but I think the biggest thing was manpower. I think that was probably the most difficult time in my career where I had to lay off coming close to about 40% of my workforce. So that was really tough. So, but other than that, I think 2 years has been last 2 years was been very very hard for me and I guess my team. So,
Absolutely, and sympathies to you and your team for those
yeah.
decisions that you had to make. But today, it's Great People TV. We're not talking so much about the unpleasants. We're talking about the pleasants and the inspiration. So let's
Mm,
focus on the inspirational stuff. Let's roll back the years. You did a commerce degree in Perth. You went to boarding
mm,
school in Perth, a very active sportsman when you were at school, played many
mm.
sports. Tell us about those formative years growing up in Malaysia and Australia and how that led you to a corporate career and how that led you to AirAsia.
Yeah, well, I think well pointed out. I think I grew up in KL. Never thought in my mind that I would be sent overseas, but I think similar to you as well, we were sent at a very young age, right, for boarding school. I had left at the age of, I guess, coming to 12 or 11 and a half, and I went straight to year eight. And then um, it wasn't easy. I think, I guess it was better than being in a boarding school anywhere else in Asia, but I think it's considered summer camp for us in Australia. But, it was good. It was good experience. It's an all boys school. A lot of the difference in terms of maturity by myself and how I take care of myself is contributed from being in boarding school, right? So,
And which
and
boarding
I
school was that?
Christchurch Grammar School
Oh,
in
Christ.
Perth.
Yeah, great
Yeah.
school. Yeah.
So, but I think the biggest thing I learned was not to give up in the fact that in Australia, whether you're fat, because I went there, I was a very fat kid, and I did not do much sport. But I think when I went there, how the Australian culture is the fact that no matter you're fat or not, you still have to do sport and you'll be associated to a team. Whether you're in an A team or the B team, they will have teams up to F if you want to, right? The first eight or second eight or whatever, and you then you build yourself up, right? So in Australia, that's when I learned to play ball, basketball. I learned to do rowing. Of course, I already played soccer, and football, sorry, and a lot of other stuff. But I think those are the two sports that I really focused on and excelled. But I guess throughout the whole 5 years of boarding school, I came out with achievements. I did well in school. I did well in my sports. I rode for the first eight. I played first five basketball, and I played Aussie rules a little bit here and there, but it was good, right? So, um, but I think the great thing is about being 5 years living in an all boys school is it's good, and I think being close to learning people and knowing people in Australia. I think this as well. I don't know whether in Melbourne's the way, but I think for me, most of my borders are farmers. So during term breaks, I would go over to the farm, learn how to do all kind of farming, milking cows and to everything else, which is great. So it kind of grounded me, and I guess that's where I learned. And being away from home doesn't help, right? So that's the only thing I had. Mm.
Nice, nice. And you joined AirAsia some years back before the CEO role in 2015. You were in investor relations.
Yeah.
Did that role, and you did that role quite well, because I say that because AirAsia won some awards during your tenure
Mm.
head of investor relations. And then one fine day, and Tony, I got this story from Tony at an event. He spoke
Mm.
about it super publicly.
Mm.
Look, you, Benjamin Ismail, had an offer to be the head, like almost like vice
Yeah.
president of investor relations at a big company, really, really good pay. And like all employees, you said to your boss, sorry, boss, I've got a better offer. I'm about to go. And Tony said to you, look, you're not a head of investor relations type. You're not a head of the department type. You're the CEO type.
Mm.
And he said, look, I can't pay you much, but I can give you the CEO opportunity, and you can be grown into a real big leader. So tell us about what was going through your mind during that conversation, because most people would say, no, I'm going where the money is,
Yeah.
but you said, I'm gonna be a decision maker. I'm gonna be a leader. I'm gonna be that big C level that many people crave. Tell us about that.
Yeah. I mean, before I go into that, I think I was working in banking for 10 years. AirAsia was never in my foray
Or
of
your radar.
yeah, in my radar at all. All I know is I'm a plane spotter, and I always wanted to work for an airlines, but I just said, and then opportunity came. I bumped into Irene, and Irene said, hey, you want to join AirAsia? I said, okay, I've got nothing to lose. So I told myself, give a year or two, um, and I guess and do investor relations, right? So I didn't know what investor relations was, and I took that opportunity to learn. And I think when I joined, the main advice is to learn everything, because you got to sell the company, right? You cannot just sell numbers, but you got to learn operations, you got to learn everything. So I went all around learning everything from everybody. So I guess that paid off in the fact that I could walk the talk. Right? I know what to sell, I know what to say. And the big thing about IR is, it's very close to Tony's heart, because he's the shareholder, and every road trip, so every investor meetings, he's there. So I kind of learned a lot from him, right? So, and that led to what you said, right? I won just a few awards, the investor relation awards for Bursa and that kind of stuff, some international awards, I guess, for telling a good story, right, to the world. But
All about the
so
pitch. Yeah.
yeah, so which I think it helped the company. The stocks, improved from what when I joined it was about 70 cents, and I brought it up to about $4.50, which is great. Um, so suddenly, I guess the name kind of get caught up in the market. So and that company, oil and gas, they come up and say, "Hey, do you want to go?" I said no the first time. Um, then they upped the ante again. A few months later, they came back, upped it again. I considered, but there was no push factor for me. And suddenly it came. There was a number. It was very big. It was like three or four times more than my pay. And at that time, oil and gas was a darling of the market, right? Their stock price was crazy and all that kind of stuff. So then I went to Tony and I said, "Yeah, took me a lot of guts to do it, but I said, yeah, I got to go. I got a big offer. It's gonna help me financially. Blah 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 blah." So basically, and of course, me and Tony, we have a good relationship. Things go well. And all he said is, rightly said, I think you do have the material to be a CEO one day, but not now. But I'll make sure that if you work hard under me, you get there, right? So I can't offer you that pay, which is rightly said, but sooner or later you get there, you know. A bit of convincing, a bit of talk, a bit of thinking on my side, seeing what I was, but actually, then what he did is basically just promoted me a little bit more, not still meeting the expectations of that salary that I was offered, but to work closer with him on the whole AirAsia itself. So so I was with him, and that pretty much journey happened where I did IR and other departments that I was taking care of with him, and basically that's when I traveled with him for good 1 or 2 years, being all over the world, and that's where I learned a lot of my leadership roles. leadership decisions from him, right? Know what's right and everything else. So, and yeah, I think from that, I decided I'll stay. I'll give it myself a few more years and see how it goes. Um, and that's where it happened. So, I stayed on, and that role came up to me, I guess, about 2 years down the road after that. Mm.
Nice, nice. Now, as a CEO, it's not easy. It's a lonely game. Everybody's looking at you. You almost have to be perfect in the role. And
Mm.
even though we say, look, mistakes is not a bad thing, it's a silver lining, it's an education in itself. It's probably another boarding school in itself. But tell us about just a couple of examples of the really, really harsh, steep learning curves that you had to go through as a CEO when you first started. And more importantly, how did you overcome those challenges to make you a more confident CEO? Because when you're a confident CEO, you're a confident person, you're a confident leader, you'll make more better and more confident decisions.
Yeah. I mean, I think first of all, I think the confidence in me built when I was doing IR. When I go on road trips and all that kind of stuff, you speak to sophisticated investors, right? And the fact that you got to make sure that you sound convincing and you got to sell the story. So I think that I learned from that. So any sound of uncertainty, any sound of not sure about the business, people won't invest in you. So I think that is number one. I think I grew on that. And two as well, when I was offered the role of CEO, I was a bit nervous because I was only 38 then, 37, and I was offered the role. I thought, yeah, am I ready, right? But I told myself, AirAsia X at that time was in a very bad state, and I think my goal was, well, my goal, my task was to make sure we turn around the business, right? So I told myself that I'll give it a go. I mean, what's worse can it happen? It's already at the bottom end of its performance. So I said, I know I'll just try my best in what I can do. So basically, I think me and Tony, we sat down and we talked and said, what these are the things that you need to deliver. One is change the culture of the company, change the people, whether you need to or not. Find people that you can work with, um, and basically cost cut and make money, right? So I think that's the important thing. I think the first thing I did was people, right? I think I've always seen how Tony does it. I've seen other people do it. The best thing to get loyalty and trust is to groom your own people. And I think I saw people with talent. I promoted a lot of young people into senior management and give them that chance to excel. And that's where you learn, right? You learn under fire. Because at the end of the day, they will learn with me together. We go on that same path together, holding hands. And if we don't make it, we fall together, right? So, and that's where I think helped me a lot going through. And of course, with the guidance of Tony and the board and Dan and everything else, that helped us quite a bit. So, generally, I think in terms of nervousness, whether I was scared, no, but the learning curve is very steep because I think every day is something new. Every day is about making money, and you're a listed company. Um, so it's tough, but and Tony is he's not easy to work with in a good way. He pushes you to your limits, and basically you question yourself. But he has taught me in many ways that there's no such thing as a no. There's always a solution, and I think from that on, I'm in that mindset now. When my staff comes to me, the young guys, okay, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. Go find it because there's always a solution. So, and that's where we went on.
And if you had to, thanks for sharing that, by the way. And if you had
Mm.
to rewrite your LinkedIn profile tomorrow, what would be the two or three major key wins that you are extremely proud of that the company achieved under your leadership since 2015, since you came to the role?
Yeah, I mean, the first part was um, the company was loss making for a while, and after that, when I came in after a year and a half, we turned the business around, and we became 2 years of profitability. I think that's a big change.
Nice. Well done.
We Yeah. Then after that, we brought up the profile. I brought up the share price a little bit, not much, not the pre-IPO days, but we got it close to it. Um, and I guess the next one is whether it's a good thing, it's a bad thing. It's questionable, but I think it's when the company went into restructuring last year, and I think the testament to one of my board members, Kenon, who drove that restructuring. But we spent a good 2 years, day and night, talking to advisors and everybody else in the world, trying to turn that business around. When everybody thought that we were going to go belly up, right? And we basically just got that done, pulled it through, and from being owing the whole world debts and all that, we became debt free, right? Because the court sanction kind of put us into a debt free position. So now we're pretty much a clean business. And I guess the last part of that is last quarter we posted a profit right after COVID, and that is an achievement. I think it's great.
Job, man.
It's not just me; it's the whole team, right? So yeah. Mm.
Fantastic stuff. Fantastic. Now, you spoke a lot about Tony. He pushes you to your limits. It's almost breaking point. You question yourself. Some people can
Mm.
take it, some people can't.
Mm.
Obviously, you can take it. So yeah, he is like any entrepreneur, a tough customer internally.
Correct.
But how about
Correct.
Kamaruddin Maranon? Very smart guy.
Similar,
He-
similar mindset.
yeah,
Yeah.
can you tell us about him?
Yeah, similar mindset. I think Tony's the marketeer. He knows the business. He knows how to drive business, how to get people to buy seats and all that. But Dato Din, he's a smart man in the fact that he knows he
He's the
helped.
money man.
He's the money man, but also helped me in terms of making sure that all the negotiations with everything in terms of what you do, whether it's aircraft financing or everything else, you got to make sure that you get the best deals on the street. Um, he's also an entrepreneur himself, but I think both ways. He gives more objective guidance to make sure that you do the right thing, which is good. Don't need more on the marketing and driving the business side. So both of them complement each other. So I learned many things, and I think the key thing I learned from Tato Dane as well is the fact is you've got to be grounded in life. You could be in a very good position, or whether it's CEO or shareholder or whatever. You got to be sure that you focus, be grounded, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who's eyeing for the same job and want to take you out, right? So I think for me, that's the most important thing. And I guess the final thing, I guess, is being honest, right, with yourself and being honest with everybody else. So if you have that honesty with everybody else, people will do business with you and have the element of trust with you. So I think that's what he gave that pointers to me. And of course, he does give me some religious guidance in life.
Yes.
Typical Dr. Din, but I do take it in stride. But yeah, we both of them has played a big role in my life. Yeah.
Yes. In Tony and Din, you trust. Well,
Mm, mm,
just a couple more questions. The it is Thursday, January 5th, 2023, the
mm.
first week of the new year. What is the future of AirAsia?
Well, for future AirAsia, I think the main one is the fact that we we are the original low cost carrier airline in the world, in terms of Asia. I mean, what Tony and Dan and did is they allow people who dream of flying, never could afford flying, to fly. We've allowed people to see destinations that have never been, never seen, and that's what we've done. And that's what our role is, to ensure that we have destinations that people could only dream of, right? So now, as we speak, January 5th is to ensure that that dream lives on. The fact that we allow people to still fly at on the cheap, with good services, with good nasi lemak and everything else. But we want to continue doing that, right? I think that's why the tagline goes, "Everyone can fly." We make sure that we maintain that success, and I think that's why I think we're very cost conscious in terms of the business. Tony, Dan, and myself, to make sure that we cut costs as much as we can. And the only reason we do that is not to enrich profitability, but it's more to allow to bring the fares down even lower. And that's the important thing, right? So, um, and basically, it allows you to bring your kids on a holiday, 4 or 5 times a year. And back in our days, Ben, we would dream of going on holidays 4 times, 5 times a year. That will save up money for us to
Be,
go to London
be lucky to
5
go
days.
once here, bro.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So I think that's the difference now. I think our kids are very lucky; they get to see the world more often than we did. So that's why I'm saying. So back to your question. Yes, I mean the key thing is to continue doing that and offering and grow as big as we can to ensure that we become one of the best, and also one of the global airline within the ecosystem of Asia and the region. Yeah,
Wish you all the best with that one, and
yeah.
because we
Thanks,
we
man.
all AirAsia has changed the mindset of many million people, how we travel, how we plan holidays, how we take the kids. I do
Correct.
completely agree with you right there.
Mm.
And your management style, if you had to describe it in one or two sentences, how would you pitch it or describe it?
Well, for me, I think I'm an easygoing guy. I think that's one
You
important
are.
thing. I think I'm a man. I'm not a man of the people. I just to make sure that I gain people's trust. I'm very honest. But unfortunately, there's also a bit of the dark side of me where I cannot take no as an answer. I have to ensure that things are done right the right way. At the end of the day, I am accountable for the airline. I am accountable for the shareholders. If I don't do it right, it looks bad on the airline. It looks bad on them, right? So I have to make sure that my flights leave on time. I have to make sure OTP on time performance grade. I have to make sure that our aircraft is in perfect condition and all that kind of stuff, and make sure that we make money, right? And we pay salaries. So all this kind of stuff is very important, and I make sure I ensure that happens. So I think in terms of the staff, I hire people that who are confident, who can bring themselves up and carry themselves and walk the talk. Because what I do now is um, how I train the managers and whoever the head of department is. I send them to the gauntlet. I can let them go see Tony and present whatever there is, and I will come in if ever they get stuck, because that's the only way they will learn. That learn
Nice.
the hard way.
Tough
So
love.
yeah, correct. So that's how I do it. So but at the end of the day, I'm there always supporting them, and that's how I train my staff. And for me, I take it day by day, and we see what comes out, because there's never a dull day in the airline business. There's always something new. There's always something coming up, delays or diversions or what kind of stuff, which we had yesterday, but we'll get there. But that's me.
That's you. That's you. And well
Mhm.
explained, direct, straight and to the point, and you don't take no for an answer. Look, Ben, it's been a wonderful discussion here today to learn about you and the future of Asia. Thank you for sharing that. I do have one more question for you, though. It's a funny question. If you had to tell someone at a dinner party, what's the similarities between working on a farm and running an airline? What is it?
Well, in the farm, I hang out with sheeps. In the airlines, I hang out with cabin crews and fun people and pilots and a good staff and all staff. And I think that's the difference. But yeah, I mean, it's a great environment. Airlines is so dynamic. I think, and what cheers me on and keeps me going is to see how happy people get to go on holidays and all that with us, and that's very important. And I think I like that feeling. So yeah,
Well, well, sheep and people make a lot of noise, and hopefully it's all
yeah,
noise. So
correct.
that's always a good way to move forward. Look, my friend, Happy New Year once again. I hope you have a great 2023. Thanks for joining us here today. Thank you, Benjamin Ismail, CEO of AirAsia X, for sharing his leadership style, his leadership mantra, and the future direction of AirAsia. Please don't forget, as always, to follow our social media platforms, which is Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter as well. And this year for Great People TV, we will be doing things a little bit differently. Yes, the last 1 year plus, we've got great guests every week, but we want to not so much go for quantity this year, but we want to go for more quality, because we want to get our guests get some really really good sound bites, this interview included, and sort of break it up so you can all learn from our great guests on Great People TV. So a little bit different, and we'll have a bit more fun and not to say not so serious, but a bit more fun content, a bit mimicking TikTok. Not quite TikTok, but I'm just giving you a tease there of what to expect. It's not easy, but we will get there with a lot of hard work, just like the good people of Asia. So my name is Ben Ibrahim. On behalf of my guest Benyamin Ismail and myself and everybody here at Great People TV, have a great 2023, and we'll see you soon on the next episode or the next content piece of Great People TV. Take care.